Good morning, everyone. We are so glad that you could join us today. I'm here with Chris Torbert, our VP of Sales. He is going to be walking you through a high-level overview of DESTINI Estimator, as well as showcasing some features that might be beneficial to your team. He's also going to be talking briefly about some key things to look out for and keep in mind when you're going through that software evaluation. Before we get started, I do want to emphasize that we really encourage you to ask questions. We are going to have some time for those and without further ado, Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate you taking out about 30 minutes of your day to spend with us. My commitment to you is to make this super casual, super informative, and absolutely no hard sell whatsoever. This is educational, and I'm excited to walk through a couple of things with you. Just kind of set the stage a little bit. I talk to, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of estimating and pre-con groups every year, and if everyone that I've talked to is starting to look at this. They're either actively evaluating, they have an initiative coming up, or they're starting to think about, hey, how do we continue to evolve and improve as an organization with changing economic circumstances, with technology evolving at a rapid pace, and then maybe some legacy tools and processes that help get us where we are today, but maybe don't feel confident that that's where it's going to get us to where we want to go in the future. And so the things that we're going to cover today are really based off of that premise of everyone starting to kind of look at this. It can seem a little intimidating on what to look for. But I thought it would be really interesting and helpful just to share a couple of, three high-level, pieces of information or things to look out for as you all have your internal conversations, or maybe as you start a formal evaluation, or maybe you're starting to get an initiative kicked off. So the first thing that, whether you choose our product or not, right, whether you want to look at our product or not, I think these three things that we're going to cover are super helpful. And I would just encourage you to make that part of your strategy. I think the first and hands down the most important one that I see time and time again is around making sure whatever you do that you have a good data strategy. And what I mean by that is, everything's about data, right? Data. People are forming teams, right, within their organization to focus on data. How do we capture that data? How do we harvest that and then turn around and leverage that? And, as estimators and pre-con professionals, we are creating really valuable data. And so whatever you do, make sure that you find a process or a platform that allows you to unify the data, capture that data, and then present that back to you. And so what we're going to start today is really the leveraging of the data. And then we're going to hop into, okay, how is this data created? So think of a scenario here where you get a call from an owner and they say, hey, I want to think about building a 5-story office building in Dallas. And, I need to go to get approval for some things and to go run some rough numbers. Hey, in 30 minutes, going to give me a call and let me know how much that's going to cost. Okay. That can be a challenging process. So I just want to show you high level by leveraging the data that your teams are already creating and generating, how we can get to a really defendable number really quickly. So we started at a high level here, right? It's just some general overview. But I think where the power of this starts to come into play is with some of these filters here. So I'm just going to walk through how I can narrow that down. So we got some different project types here. I'm just going to click Office, and we'll start to see this dynamically change. And so really we've got these 5 projects here. So I'm going to search all of these projects. These are all of my office buildings that are in this particular set of data. Okay, so if I start to come down here into summary details, I can see I've got 5 projects. I've got each of those projects listed side by side, and then you'll see I've got a nice little uniform map breakdown over here, and then it's an average cost per property. I'll get to that in a second, by uniform map. Okay, so if we come over here, you can see our property's total building area. Okay, so it's the average cost per square foot of each of these. Sounds pretty simple, right? So let's take this, multiply it by the rough square footage of the new building, and maybe that's a good good place to start. However, if we come down, excuse me, if we come down here, look at some property details, we're going to see that 2 of these are mid-rise, okay, or high-rise, excuse me. And so we want, this is going to be a 5-story, so that's a pretty good comp, but let's take some more. So if I come in here to the project filters, I'm going to go and leave these last 2 off because those are not great comps. Come here, go back to summary details. Now it has narrowed it down to my true comps, and it's jumped from $180 a foot to $215 a foot. I can then look at this by any way, by bid package, by 3 levels of master format if I wanted to. I don't know if you want to get that granular. The point is I can then come in, I can escalate that both regionally. I can escalate that both regionally and for time. So there's a lot of conversation we could have around here, but everyone that we're talking to wants this data at their fingertips, okay? I've not met a single person that has not found this very interesting, and absolutely that's where we want to get to. The challenge is, and this goes back to the good data strategy, is how do we make sure the data that we're leveraging is good, right? And there's really 2 parts of that. First part we're going to hit on is the unification of that data. Okay, so how do I ensure, right? I've got a team of 2, I've got a team of 200, whatever it may be. How do we ensure that the data is entered in a uniform manner that renders that data good? So now I'm going to show you how one approach to doing that, and that is we have what we call templates, and templates are really, really popular. They're anywhere. A lot of customers are doing, either regional templates. Most commonly, it's market sector templates. So maybe one for hospitality, one for office, one for retail, one for higher education, whatever it may be. And the really, really good thing about templates, so there's a lot, but one of the ones that as it relates to data is just the act of creating this, right? It's going to create a couple of things, right? So it's going to take, the address, the location, and you can set what properties do you want to, or what data tags or properties do you want to associate with that particular project. So it knows it's an office, okay, because this is an office template. And then I've asked it to ask me a couple of questions. You can do as many or as few as you like. The owner of this, let's just say it's Google, and Chris, I'm the lead estimator, okay? As soon as I hit new estimate, what it's going to do is start to present that template now in an estimate form that I can start doing my work. But what I want to show you, and this just goes back to the unification of data. So I take a peek over here. These are the data tags that are at least a part of this project right now. And we have groups that have 100 of these, right? And so these are the properties that feed into that data. So the act of creating an estimate, going through and updating, your line items in an estimate, automatically unify the data that has been presented back to you. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to customers that have data strategies, but their data is unusable because, Jim does it one way, Bob does it another way, and then Karen does it a completely different way, and all of that renders the data as unusable. So templates are really, really important. The beauty of this is the act of creating an estimate automatically pushes that data into that cost history engine. So the 2 big benefits: templates unify the data, and then DESTINI Estimator automatically pushes that data in that unified manner into your cost history database. So there's no manual moving of data. There's no manual unification of data. It's incredibly important that whatever you all decide to do and to look at, that a data strategy is top of mind. So the second thing is, now that we're kind of in here, we've talked about data, we've looked at how we can unify and automate the data process. Is the second thing I want to make sure you guys are focused on and keep in the back of your mind. Estimating is not a science necessarily, right? It is not, hey, do X, Y, and Z. It produces X result, right? There is this concept that we use as the art of estimating, right? It's part science, but there is this art that is irreplaceable. And so whatever you decide to do, go into it with that mindset of, hey, how do I have the flexibility to tell the story that I want to tell? Am I going to be able to maintain that artistic nature of estimating that ultimately helps you differentiate yourself from your competition? And so I think that comes in a lot of different forms, is flexibility. But so I'm going to show you a couple of them. This is our estimate view. We're going to come back to this in just a second. I want to show you two other parts of the platform that are really key to this flexibility. Okay, so we're going to go back to this tab. We kind of focused on these project properties here earlier. Now I kind of want to draw your attention to this. This is not Excel. This is an Excel emulator. Okay, and the reason we actually had customers come to us and say, hey, we really want to find a way to leverage some of the things that we historically have done outside of the platform, but do it inside the platform. Those could be things like conceptual estimating. It could be general conditions and general requirements. It could be staffing. It could be just countless side spreadsheets for side calculations, notes, things like that. We want to consolidate those. Okay, and so what we have done is we've provided an Excel emulator, and then this is an input. It can be an input into the estimate, and I'll give you an example of that here in a second. But anything you can do in Excel, you can do right here. The beauty of that is you don't have to worry about losing that. You don't have to worry about that being disconnected from your actual estimate. It's here. You can do all the same things you can do in Excel right here. One really powerful example that has really resonated, especially in terms of templates, is around conceptual estimating. Okay, so I'm going to pull up another example real quick. This is a template for a general warehouse. So this particular good example is, hey, we do a bunch of general warehouses. It's been taking us days, potentially even weeks, and it's usually a senior person. I need to be able to get to a pretty reliable, defendable number within 30 minutes, maybe an hour, just depending on the situation. And so what we've done is we've worked with customers to put these market sector templates, these conceptual templates together using this Excel emulator, and the act of just going in here and entering, a couple of quantities starts to drive these project properties, which then starts to generate some cost. So just entering two quantities got us to about $2.4 million. I would love to spend more time on this and show you the power of this, but this is just one example of the ways that we can still have the flexibility to leverage some of the things that really set us apart and give us the flexibility to create new things. We can help you with that, but to maintain the art of estimating and the flexibility that people traditionally have had to use Excel for, but it's right here in the product. One other example of that is another kind of Excel-looking emulator, but this is more of an output. Think of this as an output from your estimate. So instead of, hey, I do my estimate in my estimating platform, and then I get an owner bid form, and now I've got to manually key or manually type or copy and paste those over, or hey, owner asks for a really custom report, I've got to just dump it to Excel, and then I've got to do a bunch of manual manipulation. All we have to do is bring that into a dashboard, do some really quick basic linking, and then anything I do in the estimate automatically updates the dashboard. So what I mean by that is, let's take a look at this 588, right? So building 1, concrete. Let's go over here. I'll come back to this in just a second. I look at building 1, concrete. I get that same $588,000. What I do here, so I do Control A, and let's just say I've been doing this for 25 years. I want to make this an even $750,000 because I just know, or maybe I get a last minute sub number that updates to $750,000, and I go over to my dashboard, it automatically updates that $750,000. So another part of that is I could also, let's go back to all items. I could look at data a bunch of different ways. Let's go master format, 3 levels. And then let's say I want to look at building 1, okay? So what I'll do is I'll come down here, grab a property called system. All I have to do is drag it up, and it resorts everything. I can pull some of this data down a little bit, but I can see here my building 1 is 3.6 million. So go back to my dashboard. Building 1, $3.6 million. Okay, and let's just say, hey, I need to spread some more into building 1. I could do the exact same thing. Hey, I want to add a 10% escalation to that. It's going to change it to 3.8. I go back here now. My building 1 is 3.8. So it's, hey, tucking. I need to be able to tuck a little money in here. I need to be able to spread a contingency. There's other ways to do that. There's the ability to do backwards math, right? So you know, if I know this is 3,000, watch the unit cost here. As soon as I tab over, it's going to back into a new unit cost. Again, the flexibility to change anything in this, have the map automatically work without risk of error, and to tell the story you want to tell. There's about 100 other things I could show you, but those are just a couple of really quick examples that I think lend itself to the art of storytelling as an estimator. So 1 was good data strategy. 2 was flexibility and the art of estimating, making sure we maintain that. The third that I want to share with you all is, whatever you do, our platform or something else, make sure you provide your team one platform to live in. What I mean by that is, the days of having an estimating tool and then a takeoff tool and then maybe a 3D takeoff tool and maybe some spreadsheets for conceptual estimating and maybe, you know, a separate cost history tool, those days are quickly leaving us. And whatever you do, find a platform that your team can live in, that they can make sure that every day they're in that tool. What that will help you guys do is make sure the process is followed, make sure all of the data is unified, all of the activities that your teams are doing, it's just right there in front of them, right? It helps for training, for onboarding, for the flow of data. It's incredibly important, and I'll give you a couple examples of that. We talked a little bit about conceptual estimating. This is one example of it. We talked about cost history. We talked about reporting a little bit. This is just one. This is just one example of a report. There's hundreds of others that we could share with you guys and what other people have done. But there's comparison, be able to compare multiple versions of a project, maybe various projects. But I think the one I want to hit on next is around Takeoff. I think this is a classic example of, hey, I go do my 300 takeoffs and OST, and then I've got to manually transfer each one of those. And I just want to show you one quick example of how we could eliminate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to load a PDF. We also we do have integrations with Procore. So if you use Procore, there's a couple integrations that I think as it relates to Takeoff and keeping everything in one platform are really important. That I would love to show you at some other time. But for the purposes of this, just want to show you a really basic example. Okay, we're going to do a slab on grade. I'm not an estimator, so I'm going to make this pretty quick and dirty. Okay, do back out. Okay, so I've drawn a takeoff item here. Okay, and I have the ability to add a line item, create a line item that maybe that's not in the database, add a line item from the database, or to add in the. Okay, so what I will do here, I'll come in here and search for slab on grade assembly. I have one of these, and this is a whole nother conversation, but I'm just going to do a detailed assembly. The area, all these project properties are automatically presented. All I have to do is bring that over, and it starts to quantify some items. So thickness, I'm going to get to this really, really quickly. Let's pump it. Let's do some vapor barrier, and then we'll be done. Okay, so again, $134,000. These are the 3 line items that will be added to that takeoff. I hit OK. Beauty is if I go back to my estimate, I could see here, these are the 3 line items that are tied to that. Again, this is better if I have multiple monitors. I only have the one monitor today, so bear with me here. Imagine, maybe we could use our imagination. Okay, so I've got, off here, give you some space. So I've got that same 134,000. All I have to do here is go over to my my point here. The act of dragging this out. As soon as I let this go, watch the cost on the left. It's going to automatically update, right? So as you get 5, 7, 10 iterations of drawings, right? Imagine the hundreds or thousands of opportunities that creates to manually transfer data from maybe a legacy Takeoff tool to your estimate within Destiny Estimator or any other platform that you want to look at. Make sure that the act of those days are behind you. You can take that time and spend that on value engineering or working more with subs. And then last thing I'll show you is just a little simple Control Z undoes that, and our direct cost goes back to $134,000. So just to sum those three up, make sure you have a good data strategy around unification and around the automation of pushing that data into a presentable format. Make sure you maintain the flexibility and the art of estimating, and then make sure you find one platform for you and your team to live in. It's going to make life so much easier. It's going to be so much more efficient, and reduce your risk of errors. With that, I think, Melissa, I think we're open to some questions.
Awesome. Great. Chris, thank you again for sharing that. Hopefully you guys listening were able to take away some insights from that. We do have a couple of questions here. The first one that I would like to tackle, Chris, if someone wanted to schedule that in-depth demo today, like some of these features that we went over, they want to, have a closer look at it, go really dive into that, what would that process look like? Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a demo request form on our website. You could also message me directly, whether it's LinkedIn or email. But I think once that starts the process, what we want to do first is have a conversation, right? We just kind of want to understand, hey, where's the interest stem from? Maybe what are some of the things that you're doing today? What does that process and the tool set look like today? Maybe what is the future or desired state that we want to get to? And we'll just make sure there's an opportunity or a good fit. If so, then what we would do is we would have someone from our team walk through a much more in-depth demo and kind of show you how those specific items, questions, or challenges could be solved within our platform. Then after that, we just kind of see, hey, is there still a fit? Do we think it's worth further conversation? And then we've got great processes around proof of concept to make sure it is a good fit. Good question, though.
Awesome, great. Okay, and then I think the last question that we have here, wanted to ask, Chris, if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's starting software evaluation right now, they're just getting, dipping their toes in the water. What would you want to say to them? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so in addition to the three things that we kind of just went through as it relates to the specific product features, I'll give you two. So Melissa or whoever asked the question, I'll give you two, and because I think they're both equally important. One is lay the groundwork internally, right? Bring your executives, your management into the fold, get their support. It makes it just such a smoother process, and it makes it a broader process. It makes it an estimating plus data conversation. So I think that the support, or at least an initial thumbs up from executives to look at this is important. And I think the second is, as great as a product may be today, technology is evolving faster than it ever has. And so whatever platform that you're looking at, make sure you understand what is the future of that platform, right? Are they continuing to innovate? I think the best thing that you can do is to, one, talk to other customers, and two, look at what they've done previously. Have they shown a history of innovation? Are they willing to share where we're going at a detailed level? For example, we've released 148 features over the last 3 years. That is all driven by user feedback, right? And so we were able to share that with you all and kind of show you what we've done, and also where we're going with a really detailed roadmap. So internal support from higher ups, and then a forward-looking eye on the product to make sure that you're betting on the right horse.
Love that. Thank you, Chris. And to those of you still online, I just want to encourage you, if you've seen something interesting through this, if you want to follow up We do have that demo request form on our website, or if you just think of some questions later on in the day or the week, feel free to message either myself or Chris. With that being said, I want to remind everyone that you will be receiving a recording of this. Everyone who registered, even if they didn't attend, will get a recording so you can look back over it, take notes, and so keep an eye out for those in your inbox. Thank you again so much for joining us today. Really hope to see you again soon. Bye.
See ya.